Let us look at how we can search through the characters in a string and access them one by one, also manipulate them. So all these are strings. So these characters that are contained in these codes here are strings. This is another string, another string. So this string is assigned to this variable prefixes. This is also assigned to suffix. Then even though these are numbers, they are strings because they are contained in this code. We assign these strings to a variable called index. So this Python code is just to print these strings for us. So if I run model and call this function string, it should print this string for us. So we can see that it is printing it as we have arranged it over here. Again, we can access each of these characters in this string using their indices. So I'm going to print once again these strings onto the screen. First of all, let me use the colon to access all of them so that we get the idea of what an index is. So let me save this, Ctrl+S, then run model. So I'm going to call this function characters. So characters. If I call this function, it will print all the strings. So I've intentionally arranged it this way so that we get the idea of what indices is. So even though this is a string, it is just helping us to see what an index is. So the index starts from 0 in each string. So for this character, the index, the first one is 0. Then the second character has an index of 1 up to the last character here, which is having an index of 6. So even though there are 7 characters, we start counting from 0. So if you take this string over here, you can see that it has from 0 to the second index. This one has from 0 to the 6th index. So if I want to print this character n, I need to input in the suffix. I need to put in the suffix 1. Then if I want to print this character p, I need to put in the suffix 4, or that is the index. Then if I want to print, let's say this 6, I just have to put 6 there. So let me save this and then run this model. So when I call this function again by pressing, putting my cursor here and pressing enter, then press enter again. So we were able to access the individual characters as we want. So the program searches through the string and prints the character that we want it to print. Also, we can get a slice of this string. For instance, I want it to print from 0 colon 4. So 0 to the 0th index to the 4th index. Then I want this one to print from the 1st index to the 3rd index. Then I want this one to print 0 index. index. So if I save this and I run model and call this function character again, you see how it gives us the portion of the characters in the string, or the slice of it. Fine. Now we want to also iterate through the characters. So let's pick this character. We want to write a code that iterates through this string. Let's pick this string and write a code that iterates through the string and gives us an output which prints each of the character in the string per line. So here we have this function called characters1. So what this function is going to do for us is that we are going to include it in a for loop, or we are going to iterate this string by using a for loop. So we have the string here, and we initiate a variable index equals 0. This index is a string object, is an int object, different from this string object here. So just a placeholder, so index equals 0. So when you put 0 here, it is going to access this character, which is a B. So note that we use the square bracket to access the indices of the characters in the string. We use the square parenthesis. So when this 0 is placed in here, it will bring forth this. After that, the program will update. That is, it will increase by step 1. Index will increase by step 1. So here becomes 1. Then it prints the 1th index, which is C. It repeats until all the characters in this string are used up. So if I call this function characters1, we expect that it prints all the characters in the string per line for us. So that's exactly what we are seeing here. Now we also want to reverse this. We want to reverse it. So you modify this code again so that we can print a reverse of what is here. So how do we do it? We are going to introduce another line in the for loop. So we call it reverse. We want reverse to take the length of the string here and then subtract the index from it. When it does that, we'll get from 7 to 1. From 7 to 1. But since the characters start from 0 index, the last index here is 6. So if we do not adjust it, it will give us a range error. So we need to subtract 1 from the reverse. Good. So that will give us from 0 to 6 instead of from 1 to 7. So this is just a modification we are adding here, and we include it here so that it will print the reverse for us. So if I delete this thing, it will print only the reverse. But I'll leave it as just as it is so that we can see that it is printing in the reverse order. So if I call this function character2, it's going to do what we expect it to do. It will iterate the string. So this one prints from the 0th to the 6th character, then from the 6th character to the 0th character. This is the reverse that we wanted. Now we want to modify this program so that it doesn't only print these characters for us line per line, or it doesn't only print the characters in this string for us per line, but we want to have a parameter in a function. So we modify this so the function will have a parameter that will take a string argument. So we modify this function here. We call it character 3. So this function here, character 3. So what it is going to do for us is that whatever we input here as a string argument, it will take it, print it per line, then reverse it for us. So let me call this function character 3. So I need to input a string argument. So any string will do. So let me type QWERTY and then press enter. So it prints QWERTY and then reverse the order for us. So you can call it with any string at all. Any string at all. So we can call it with all the alphabets in all the characters in the English alphabet. So it prints in the reverse order for us, or in the opposite direction for us. Now let us modify this, or let us modify this code so that we can play a little game with it. We want this Python code to take a character from one string and then a character from another string, then put it together to form words. So we call it word game 1. So that is concatenation in Python. How do we do that? So notice that we modify this program so that we can input any string and it will print it per line for us. So this function is waiting for a string argument. When you get a string argument, we have the suffix here, which is 1. So it is going to end that with 1 for us. It will take the prefix and add a suffix O and E. Then it forms a word. So we use this symbol to concatenate the prefix and the suffix for each index or for each character in the prefix that we will type. So if I call this function word game 1, so let me call it word game 1. Sorry, I didn't include the argument. So I need to input a strange argument. So if I call this, let me input this strange argument, which is BCDG. So BCDG BCDGP BCDGPTZ. So if I call word game1 with this argument, strange argument, it is going to take each of them and give us this word. So we form words from a string and from two strings. So we pick one word, the prefix, and pick the suffix and combine them to form these words: bone, cone, dan, up to zone. Now we can swap the positions in these strings and still it's going to print for us in that order. Now let us modify this code again. You can see that we have zone, cone, dan, gone. We want to modify it such that all the others will print the same except for bone and done. We want to insert a word that will change their pronunciation. So this one to drone and this one to prone. So it means we need to modify this code here. So we call it a function, or we define a new function by modifying that code. And this time what we are going to do is that we will insert this r. So we define another string. Then we are going to include if conditional in the for loop when performing the iteration. So the condition is that if the character is not D and the character in the prefix is not also P, it should print the index by the suffix. So apart from this and apart from this, print all of this. Print all of this. So that is what it will do for us. Otherwise, add or insert this string R. So that is what that code will do for us, so that it will change P O N E and D O N E to different English words for us. So let's play that word game. So I'm going to call this game. So I'm going to call game 2. So when I call it, you see it has changed the word as we want it. So that is how we iterate through strings in Python. Thanks for watching. There will be more interesting videos coming soon on programming in Python. So please stay tuned.